अरे साक्षी
has started. We are waiting for people to join.
हाँ ये तो कोई आया नहीं है
नंबर कम होते
हाँ,
नंबर तो ठीक थे
गलत लिंक तो नहीं है, राइट?
हाँ,
हाय प्रत्युष. Hi everyone. So few people are joining in. We'll just give a minute or two for others to join in. Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for joining in. We'll be starting soon. I've just added few more people to join in. So let's start. Let me present my screen first. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. And we'll start. So today's topic, we largely tend to focus upon the B2B payments. B2B payments have been a focused area for the industry very time soon. I mean, when digitization have happened recently, it has largely pushed upon the what we can say the B2C sort of transactions, or the transactions which are initiated by the customers for other customers, which are largely also called as a P2P transactions or person to merchant kind of transactions, where something which was been picked up a lot. The segment which was left out was the B2B payment. So this B2B payments would be a payment done by a MSME to its corporate, or MSME to another MSME, or it could be subscription based payment done by a MSME, or it can be a simple GST payments which is done by any corporate to the government. So largely, these are all the transaction types are considered under B2B payment landscape. So we'll try to research deep, discuss deep about it. The space have been understood to be much more complex than the normal P2P or normal payment space or person-to-person payment space, and that's the reason we wanted to unwind upon the opportunities which it holds, so that we can explore this as a new opportunity to enter into the market as well. Yeah. So we'll be focusing upon overall B2B transaction landscape. How does it looks like? How does the ecosystem look like? And what are the India's B2B payment adoption factors which are there, which are increasing this day by day? what is the role of DPI, public infrastructure, into this in B2B payments, as well as what are the use cases and innovations into it. Just to start with, I'll just introduce our organization. For those, of course, I can see few of them who are repeated viewers of our webinar, but for others to complete upon, like we have been here in this space from 7 years. So we have been started in 2017 and largely working into digital finance consultancy with BFSI. So we have been there for 7 years now. We have been worked into multiple segments under the BFSI sector, of course, into the digital adoption. We do also arrange a Bharat Fintech Summit. In coming slides, I'll talk about it. And we are also one of the players who have been largest among the Asia, and have been working throughout the training programs as well. So few of you must be knowing us from the training programs which we had run earlier, be it corporate or be it executive programs that we had run. Thank everybody to joining in. Moving forward, from the presence perspective, we have been working India, East Africa, and Middle East as well for a long period, but largely into the India as a focused market. We have been working with large fintechs, banks, NBFCs, embedded finance players, some of the international players as well, and some of the key partners like NPCI, as well as the other regulating government enabling partners as well. So we are 25, around 25 member team now, have been there for more than 6 years and have been executed multiple projects with the multiple number of clients, be it fintech, banking, or from the BFSI community altogether. So this is something upon what do we do. So many of you know us from our thought leadership as well, where we have done a lot of posting on the LinkedIn, or be it from the newsletter as well. Largely, we do follow the practitioner approach since we have been working in this space into the digital and technology from the leadership experience as well. We tend to leverage that experience to work in any of the projects which we go deep into it, and as well as the risk and compliances practices which we run, that also helps us to engage more deeply and understand what are the risk items that would be, and help with the proper implementation along with the mapping of those risks during any project implementation. Yeah, I will just talk about the BFS 25. So we are coming up with this third version of BFS Bharat Fintech Summit. This time it's on 5th and 6th February 2025. So people who haven't registered would request also them to register, because you would say this event to be more linked to the content side of it. So largely we'll be focusing upon payments, lending, technology, AI, and sort of topics which are largely been spoken upon, and some detailing of it will be look after during the event. So yeah, we would be starting soon. The agenda preparation and the release of the agenda have already been started for that as well. Fintech Grad is our online learning process. So we have newly launched ONDC chapter over there. We have just added a few more perks to it, like the people who are getting the annual subscription for the Fintech Grad would be able to get a gold pass for the Bharat Fintech Summit 2025 as well. So since the seats are filling fast, we would request you to avail this facility as soon as possible. From the services perspective, we do work on the consulting services, of course, as well as partnerships and corporate training. These are the multiple services that we work upon, be it from the strategy perspective, product program management perspective, as well as risk and management perspective. From the training perspective, we do opt for the offline training as well as a corporate training services. So far, we have done more than 1,700 plus hours of training for trained around more than 4,000 participants during the sessions, and still it is going on. Yeah, coming back to the topic of the B2B payment landscape, we'll talk about it during the session. So would like to just view from the overall digital payment ecosystem altogether. So as we can see on the screen, this is a whole digital payment ecosystem as the way it looks. I mean, be it from the perspective of enablers, which are enabling for you to enable the, I mean, to initiate the payment services. So be it KYC or risk management there, anti-money laundering and FRM reconciliation systems, card management, and so on. So although if you see on the on the other side of it, where we have payment gateways, payment aggregators, also POS and digital wallets. Sorry for that. Contactless technology provider from the perspective of the retail payments provider or the retail to merchant type of payments. So this is altogether the digital payment systems what we have. Today we'll talk about more from the B2B perspective. How does this ecosystem evolves and what are the different what you can say the players are there in into the B2B system? What would be the use case is something we will be focusing upon. So India's B2B payments market is significantly growing. Now, if you see the opportunity perspective, while it has been called as a 15 trillion USD dollar opportunity, the shift is would be going from say 6 to 7 trillion to 15 trillion by 2030. So here, the large portion of it will be from the business and digitalization transaction, as our MSME sector is also growing, and the businesses are also looking at digitization and adopting the digital services in order to be it from the terms of doing sorry timely payments or being be it doing time to time transaction or improvising upon overall that. So that is something which will help this section to grow more. Apart from that, cross-border trade is also increasing day by day. The simplification of say marketplaces or the B2B payment sector which have been introduced upon with competitive rates, lower fees. Also, the tracking of transaction when it is cross-border transaction has something enabled the people to shift more to the doing transaction across the border as well as leveraging the digital payments for the same. Now, the shift from cash to digital payment is also will be the driving factor for it, because largely if you see as GSTN has also been enabled in India across the MSMEs. You largely tend to see the tend towards using digital payment mode is more, since it is easy to track. It's easy to keep the doing audit of it or keeping track of it, reconciliation. Many of the things get simplified out there. So that's the reason the adoption of digital B2B payments has also been at its spree. So this also, so these are the some of the factors, not all, but these are some of the factors which definitely will push this overall opportunity and business to grow in B2B segment. Moving forward from the complexity side, so how does the traditional B2B payment process would look like? So it will be like typically a seller would be generating the invoice in his accounting or ERP tool, which will be sent to the buyer. Then buyer downloads the invoice, enters the invoice details into their ERP. Then the buyer has to go to separate platform, be it internet banking, corporate banking, or cash management services platform to do the payment. From there, the buyer will get the UTR number, or be it a transaction reference number in case of NEFT and IMPS, and this will be sent back to the seller. And all the exchange of this is happening manually. So just try to imagine this process would take at least 2 to 3 days to process minimum in case of any MSME, because once you receive the invoice, you will tend to verify that invoice with the earlier agreement or proposal, whatever been submitted so far. So that verification will happen. It will again recheck with the stakeholders which are there in the system, whether this has to be approved or not. And then this will be approved for the processing. Even in the processing, it will be timely processing. I mean, may not happen in real time, depending on at what time you are doing the transaction. So in and all, this all tends to bring out some pain points, which in turn can be the opportunities in today's space. So likewise, the invoicing is pretty cumbersome. So platforms which are there, those will add the invoicing on, and they will be able to give you more accurate and error-free invoicing with proper details. So that is something which can be seen as an opportunity. The error rate due to manual, what you can say, intervention in between can be improved by using error-free by leveraging error-free processing through the ERP partners which have been said. And likewise, we're talking about the vendor payment. So that also can be improved with integrated payment system. So when we say integrated payment system is like when we saw the example, we talked about the buyer has to transfer, I mean, change from one platform to another platform. So one platform is only for invoicing, another platform is only for the payments. So I mean, with solving these complexities, you can bundle it all together, and this can be leveraged as a single platform for the user. From the collections perspective as well, keeping track of the collections, getting the collection out from the buyers which are there, so that also will be easier with the proactive collection and automated reminders. Those have been introduced, and so reconciliation complexities are also been seen out there. So likewise, just in the example we were talking about, where the reconciliation of such transactions which are for any trade sort of MSME would be pretty difficult thing, because they will be doing many transactions during the day with the same sort of reference number in between. So tracking it all together manually, it's far difficult. So when you use this with the platforms which are digitally enabled and can track each and every transaction and map it back to the reconciliation system, be it from the invoicing perspective, banking statement perspective, this definitely would help out. So this the pain points what we talked about can be converted into the opportunities is something we wanted to say. So typically understanding this basic pain points and pushing them towards solving them as an opportunity is something will be seen as a new complexity resolution for the B2B payments. So we'll talk about some of the types of B2B payments, what it would be and what this should be. Likewise, there are vendor and supplier payments. There are payments made to the vendors from the suppliers on based on the supplier or for the suppliers for the goods and services purchase. So this can be one-time or recurring payments as well, payroll payments. So it considers the salaries, bonuses, the fees, or sent to the or giving to the employees, etc. In terms of subscription or a SaaS-based platform payments, typically all the MSMEs who adopt digital will have some software or cloud services consumed by. Likewise, it can be sort of Google Mail services, Slack, or you just name a few. There will be a lot of the SaaS platforms which we use all together. So the subscription fee of that is something which is a pain point for the B2B payments as such. Cross-border trade payments also, the international trading transactions which are happening, that also is a pain point which can be addressed during the resolution of complexities. But that is also the major what you can say, the payment mode which has been used by the import-export players which are there. The payments made based on the raw material or services which are been given. So there might be a bit of overlap between vendor supplier payments and procurement and inventory management payments, but not always, because inventory management payments are largely looked as a sort of the maintenance services which are there, which you which MSMEs have to pay time to time to the another businesses who are helping them from the inventory management perspective. Expense management, these are the business related expenses which are done by the employees or by the organization. So these are also a type of payment that can be considered as a B2B payment. And of course, the utility and operational payments, be it electricity, water, internet, and etc. etc. So these are some of the payments where the B2B payments have been differentiated. So technically, if you see the payment modes behind that can be similar. For example, vendor and supplier payment can be done through NEFT, RTGS, or IMPS. So payment system is the same, but the use case on which this payment system has been used, that changes the mode of the payment from B2C or C2C to B2B payments. And that's where the sort of the dependency on the multiple documents or multiple approvers is something which has been called out. So what are the drivers which are fueling this B2B payment adoption altogether? So UPI and QR code payments are definitely with surge. If you see, largely people use UPI all over. So typically MSMEs would also be using this. Accepting the payments through UPI. So be it in any of your what I can say. Small shop to the retailer shop to wholesale shop, you see that QR code everywhere. What we also observed is the recently what PhonePe mentioned, like the more than 60% is of their transaction coming from the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That also calls out that the adoption of UPI has also been extended into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is definitely a positive thing from the economy as well as from the agenda of adopting the digital. The adoption of contactless, mobile, and voice-based payments is something which is again coming up from the perspective of the users' comfort basis. So, be it from the for the example to call out, like it can be Pine Labs, which has come up with an app that turns smartphones into the POS terminals, which is also called as soft POS, and which will enable you to do the contactless payments. The security and of course the AI in fraud detection have been improved. So Paytm has employed AI algorithms to monitor the transactions and prevent the fraud. So recent experience for me also has been like not in Paytm but on another platform. I have done one transaction where the transaction amount was ending with 99. So subsequent 2-3 transaction got my UPI account halted for some time, and I got also a call from my issuer bank stating that there have been multiple transactions done of the same amount. So we wanted to check whether this is a genuine transactions or not. So in traditional world, it wouldn't have been possible. But definitely in the latest world where these algorithms can be easily set up into the system, this becomes simplified as well as usable for everyone. So value-added services and embedded finance is something which is also there. So likewise, if you see the emergence of financial services options into non-financial applications have definitely pushed this. Say, for example, we are talking about the example of invoice and payments altogether, or rather finance altogether. So just imagine having this into the same platform. Say, for example, I'm using say Zoho for invoicing, and there only I get the option as well for the payments for the invoices which are raised on me. So that would definitely help to understand. For the user to not to switch to other platforms and use the same platform to do the processes, and that eventually pushes you to use digital services as well, because you don't have to change the platform, right? So that definitely helps a lot. So digitization of MSME would also will be one of the factor which will improve this adoption into B2B payments. Likewise, there are talks about the entity DigiLocker, which has been there. So Udyam registration as well. Quite a few MSMEs are already registered to the Udyam. and their data also will be coming up in the DigiLocker. So the way we use it DigiLocker for the retail users or the personal users today, it will be soon used for open up for the entity as well. So the idea of having the certificate, MSME certificates, etc., at one place would be the entity DigiLocker, which would be introduced soon. From the B2B marketplaces perspective, so these have been also one of the major factors which will be fueling this growth. Be it from the perspective of, I mean, different markets you can talk about which are there. Definitely the electronics would be there. The other markets also would be there. Likewise, uh, these will be the platforms, B2B marketplaces, which will be easier to consume multiple goods for the businesses from other businesses directly. So we'll see a few of the examples like 𝐁2𝐁 etc. in the coming slides as well. From the cross-border payments perspective, I mean, just to give an example, like 𝐁2𝐁 is facilitating this for the global transaction with strategic partnership, where you can open your online store and that can be accessed by the your consumer across the world through I mean, through multiple states or the countries, whatever it may be. From the use cases perspective, the tax and utility payments also likewise I mean, the integration of clear tax with the banking, banking state segments is something which will be help you to do the tax and utility payments as well. Definitely, bank and fintech partnerships are at its free. So, be it having the multiple non-banking services into your banking app, or vice versa, the non-banking or non-financial services are providing you the banking services that requires in the backend close integration between the bank and fintech, and the openness for the integration or for the partnership from the both sides have enabled this bank fintech partnerships to give more digital and cheaper services to the consumers. Yeah, from the payment matrix perspective, we can largely divide it as a customer and business perspective. So from the customer perspective, I mean, if you want to say about P2P payments, B2C payments, largely we'll be seeing the use cases like UPI transfer, mobile wallet transfers, etc. Comes under the P2P, where customer is transferring to another customer. When the transaction is between the B2C, that is businesses, the remitter and customer is the beneficiary. There will be transaction like salaries, refund, cashback, digital wallets, insurance claim, reward loyalty program, etc. The transactions which are between the customer and businesses are largely related to the purchases which have been doing or subscription, etc. from that perspective. But the specific segment we would like to call out here is of the B2B payment, where the remitter and beneficiary both are businesses. In this case, you will have the electronic fund transfer like NEFT, RTGS, IMPS, I mean the corporate credit and debit card payments, check, demand draft, trade finance. Trade finance would be a major sector which would be called out in the B2B payments always, and the digital payment platforms as well. Apart from this, businesses does do government payments as well. So largely the payment like corporate tax payments, GST remittances, excise duties, custom duties, PF contributions, etc. is something been called out between transactions between businesses and government that's happened typically. So digital public infrastructure have definitely been transforming and giving this boost. So when we talk about the India stack, starting from the 2009, say up till now, the India stack have been improving a lot. If you see, be it from the identity layer, be it Aadhaar for individuals, then eKYC, then eSign, the DigiLocker, now Udyam recently, also the entity DigiLocker, which has been coming up now. It has been slowly improving and helping the digital adoption across all. So cashless from the, I mean, from the payment layer perspective, definitely we have been far ahead. I mean, have been into multiple, versions of UPI where what you can say, the improvement have been made to make the adoption more easier, as well as for people to easily use the payment services. Also, the innovative payment services like CBDC has also been introduced in between. From the consent layer, I would call out account aggregator as one of the what you can say, one of the system which has come up, which will be helping you to share your consented data across the ecosystem. Of course, it's under the regulated way, but that has enabled these services to easily get adopted, as well as improve the customer experiences. So this has also been extended, I mean, be it 𝐁 or 𝐔𝐧𝐥𝐴N, 𝐁 𝐏𝐚𝐬, ONDC. We'll talk about it in a bit. But idea is like to have industry, as soon as it is evolving, it is also coming up with lots of options for the what you can say, the merchants and B2B payment segment as well. So entity DigiLocker, we talked about it. 𝐁 Marketplace, again, this will be improving the transactions which are happening between the mandatory or the payment happening between the government buyers and sellers. That definitely would be helping to make that payment streamline from the 𝐁 perspective. ONDC will bring larger volumes within the merchants and the government buyers as well. So this will also help you to open up the what you can say, the niche segment MSME players to open their businesses for the consumers to opt upon. So 𝐤𝐤𝐚 perspective, definitely this will be the part of ONDC, but from the lending perspective or from the credit perspective. 𝐺STN have definitely simplified the payment services on invoice matching services as well. The features like e-invoicing have enabled the 𝐺STN payments to be streamlined and verified as well. So that gives you end-to-end tracking of the transactions as well as the tax payments on top of it. UPI have always been there a low cost and real-time payment system to adopt, which will be used across the payment system. So be it B2B or B2C payments, UPI has been time to go. Then BBPS, which will help you to collect the bills and payments all together. So this bill payment system have improved it a lot from time to time, and this has also enabled the adoption of the overall what you can say, the adoption of digital payments across the billing cycle perspective. Aadhaar eKYC, we talked a lot about it, so I'll just skip it as of now. Talking about the Bharat Connect, that is BBPS, which we are talking about. So, I mean, NPCI has introduced NBBL, NPCI Bharat Bill Pay Limited entity as part of NPCI, which is solely focused upon this. So their focus would be more on picking up this payment services as a part of the core offerings to it. So they have come up with the interoperability network, which, I mean, in BBPS there are largely BBPS central unit, also called as a CU, which is definitely NBBL. Then operating units, which are the platforms like Open, etc. This would be the platforms. So would be out there as a BBPOU. AIs, which are agent institutions, as well as the banking partners, which would be working into the back end of it. So as a part of interoperability, BBPS allows you to connect as a central unit with the operating supplier, seller, and buyer supplier. I mean, the operating units all together. So that will enable, be it the same platform or different platform. Bharat Connect will enable you this connectivity between the both the entities. So the be it passing of the invoice, be it passing of the payments perspective, it will definitely will be one of the interoperable transaction mechanism for the B2B payments in the time to come. From the taxing perspective, so even for the B2G payments, that is tax payment perspective, there have been multiple offerings which have been come up from say Zoho or Facebook also where they have simplified the e-invoicing for the customers. Likewise, the earlier, if you see how that picture would be like, there will be multiple physical forms which has to be filled up by someone. There are everything has to be manual. People have to sign it on the form. So unless the respective authorized person is unavailable available, this payment would not be happening till that time. Also, there were multiple state and central taxations which was there, since it was not what you can say the centralized. Every state had their own taxation criteria for that, so that also got simplified. And also each of as soon as the tax contributors were different and tax acceptors were different, each were having their own portal, their own processes to do this payment. So B2G has simplified that where with help of GST, this could be centralized, and this has come up under the one stage itself. So there are GSP providers which are called as the GST Suvidha providers, which have access to the GST data. Though definitely they are regulated entities, and whenever you have to use their services, you have to go through the same scrutiny which is required to use, so that the data is not misused and only the consented data is getting access out there. Or be it the real-time tax payment tracking by Paytm for Business is something allows MSMEs to track their payments, file returns, as well as automated reminders for the upcoming tax dues. So that is something newly has come up where this now the suddenly shift have been there to simplify the services for the MSMEs, which would be helpful for them. Just working as a reminder per se. Reminder would definitely help you to do the payment, and eventually you will be keeping the track of good records of paying taxes online is something being focused upon. How do we simplify the life of MSMEs? From the ONDC perspective, definitely it will come up with the services right credits for the MSMEs as well, from the perspective of sole proprietors largely, be it insurance or investment. So there are multiple payment services which they would be coming up with, and definitely they'll help the B2 transform the B2B commerce as well. So when we say on the ONDC, on one side you will have ONDC as a seller. Definitely the buyer also can be MSME, is something which has been visualized as a B2B e-commerce platform, the ONDC which is going to bring into the market. From the 𝐁 perspective, the 𝐁 has enabled the adoption amongst the businesses. This is by the run by the government for any of the government related purchases which have been happening. The payments are to be, the registration of the orders, etc., has to be done from the 𝐁 marketplace. So it is the e-marketplace, and the adoption has been increasing. So if you see from the example perspective, from 𝐁 has processed 4 lakh crores in as a GMV at the end of at the end of this year, which is double than the previous business years. So that is how the adoption is, and definitely this also secures MSME's interest. So as from the payments perspective, the e-marketplace makes sure that the required payments are done on the time, and tracking is also done digitally all there, which gives you the transparent payment service to use with the government itself. So what would be the trends perspective? So likewise, the fintech penetration in building this services for the B2B is something which will be increasing. So likewise, be it taking an example of InstaMojo, Cashfree, Plural, only the name to say, like Razorpay, from the payment gateway perspective, from the aggregator perspective, be it PayU, EaseBuzz, or ZachPay, or Paul's perspective, be it Razorpay again here as well, and Pine Labs, etc. also from the digital wallets perspective. So this segment is something which is largely from the payment and collection perspective, where they will be supporting to the merchant and MSMEs to simplify their sort of payment collection mechanisms for the MSMEs. And when I say MSMEs, consider the other party also can be business for the B2B payments. Definitely, it's a transaction which is happening between the two businesses. Be it from the expenses card and the prepaid card. So likewise, Zagal card, if has been issued to the entity which has been used by the employees of the entity, and when they transact on the any of the, you can say, the travel platforms like Make My Trip, etc. So this transaction also would be B2B transaction and considered to be, I mean, with the help of the expense tracker, etc. The journey for that, for the customer, I mean, for the MSMEs as well as for the travel portals would be definitely be simplified altogether. Bill aggregator, the commercial card segment is also similar. So largely the highlighted ones like rewards, payment platforms, payment hub, B2B payments specifically, which are enabling the transactions between two entities, are going to see this growth. And the this fintechs are also moving towards giving the offerings to the MSME. Say, for example, just to call out, like Razorpay, along with their merchants services, they do give the dashboard for the customers to identify what are the transactions and which transaction have been received from which buyers, etc. So that is something been simplified. In cross-border payments, if I want to talk about the Skydo as an example, as a part of OPGSP, they have simplified the collection of funds from the international buyers for the MSME sellers sitting in India, which will definitely give them better transaction rate as well as tracking of the transaction. Sorry, full stack players like PhonePe, etc., have enabled the buyers here to, I mean, the sellers and the buyers to enable as a full stack platform, and be it from the payment perspective, insurance perspective, or wealth perspective, can have everything under one platform. Reconciliation, cash management are some of also the services which has done this simplification in the life of MSME. And soon this, what you can say, so these services also would be focusing more towards the MSMEs, because on the retail side it's largely been adopted as well as addressed, but B2B is something is yet to be get that what you can say, the saturation state so far. From the prepaid perspective, like I mean, gifting, employee payouts, etc. The VoloPay is working on that side as well. Overall, the card users have been increased, be it from the credit perspective or be it from the perspective of the prepaid card, etc. Definitely, the corporate credit cards and debit cards have also at the speed. These have been used for the expenses done by the employees on behalf of the organization, other vendor payments, employee expenses, etc. Virtual cards have also been in the option where you don't have to issue the card. This will be online transactions, which will be happening for the single use of transactions specifically, which will also reduce the fraud risk as such. Around the banking perspective, there are players like Slice and Cash, HapPay, as which are coming up with the cards which have been used for the specific subscription, like SaaS-based and cloud platforms as such, which will help you to use that card for specific purposes or specific place, which will avoid the frauds, etc., for the MSMEs. I'll just hold on to check if there are any questions or any queries from anyone. Yeah. Moving forward, cross-border transactions have also been focused upon more from that perspective, like bank versus B2B fintech solutions. So the I mean, cross-border transactions which when are been done through the bank, of course, the speed, transparency, cost of transfer, is much more, you can say, the difficult for the user when compared to the B2B fintech solutions, because in that B2B fintech solutions, they have simplified this a lot way. I mean, the basically largely the issue happens between the transparency and status of the transaction as well as the cost of the transfer. That is something which has been simplified by the players like Skydo and Blake Pay Local, which is helping the entities or the MSMEs to adopt them into the faster. Of course, the regulator have also been focusing on making it secure for the MSMEs to use in the I mean, from the cross-border payment aggregator or PG perspective, that's where the regulations have been stringent for this payment aggregators which are there for the cross-border, and they have come up with the licenses for that, where a PSCB can be export only, import export, or import only from that perspective, which will enable the regulated environment and secured environment for the MSMEs which are adopting these services. Definitely, B2B marketplaces is something which is the adoption has been increased out there. So the digital payments have also been simplified out there. The transactions which are happening through payment gateways and cross-border payments, etc., and real-time settlements have simplified this. From the perspective of the, I mean, for the MSMEs to empower them to do more business, the lending services have also been simplified on top of that. Also, the many of the financial services are also coming under one platform. Just picking up an example from here. Likewise, if you want to talk about from the perspective of say Ninja Card, be it an example or be it an example like Mooclicks. So these are the players which are also enabling, or Udan in the FMCG segment. I mean, it's just names to call out, right? So they have enable the businesses to adopt the what you can say, the payment services along financial services along with the basic marketplace operations of buying the goods or services and selling the goods or services. So this is definitely giving a you can say the greener ground for everyone to enter upon, and making it more realistic and simplistic for the MSMEs to use these services, or I would say the businesses to use these services while working with the different businesses. So from the fintech perspective, the super app or providing multiple services under one umbrella is something which has been looked at largely. So like payments perspective, be it vendor payments, procurement, cross-border utility payments is something which has been introduced along with the the product offerings which are like ARAP or the aggregation models, or be it payment through commercial cards, automated automation solutions, or invoice discounting. We have been their core offerings, as well as along with this tax payments and NACH facilities, merchant cash advance lending facilities, cross-border payments, virtual cards. These are coming as a add-on services. So idea is to have the full stack solution for the customers, largely from the MSME's perspective, so that they can find multiple services under one app, and which will definitely help them to traverse through multiple services and simplify overall experience for them. Escrow lately have been largely adopted across all over. So in the escrow type, there are also multiple variation have been introduced with the time has gone into the digitalization. Like otherwise, you will have virtual escrows, you will have soft escrow, you will have hard escrow. So these are multiple services of the escrow also have been introduced. So basically, that escrow services enables what you can say, multiple business entities to take part into the transaction, which is a rule-based transaction. Basically, I would say where the based on the execution of particular rule, the relevant or respective transactions will be processed upon. So now the question comes from the perspective of how the digitization is helping them. So for this, the integration of multiple platforms with the Explore platform is a basic necessity. With the introduction of APIs, and common market, with the introduction of APIs as well as the common integration methodologies. These have simplified the integration as well as the technology has brought in the solutions which are helpful for the time to time processing availability across the clock, as well as to keep a track of records on what basis the XYZ transaction has been processed and on what basis this transaction is not processed. So those kind of rule based decisions which have been happened, the audit log of that anytime you can pick it up and read through it. So that data has definitely simplified the transition between two system. I mean, just to call out the use cases of it are the vast. It can be the payment between two entities, which is based on the delivery of good, or it can be based on the quality of goods, or it can be based on the acceptance of third party who is going to use those goods. So those can be multiple, what you can say, conditions which can be put in escrow, and based on the behavior or the type of escrow been opted, this is further categorized into the soft, virtual, and hard escrow altogether. Uh, and then comes to the reconciliation side, where from the perspective of the multiple B2B payment ecosystem players, this reconciliation becomes very important part of it. When the transactions are happening between the two businesses, it is very important to understand these transactions are happening on what basis, against which invoices, which transaction is pending, which is done completely, which is partly paid. So these are some of the cases where the reconciliation plays its role. The modern reconciliation tools which have been come up, those are highly configurable and also gives you value-added services which will simplify the not just the doing the reconciliation, but it will also give the projections as well, that what could be the next part of it and how it should be. So that is something which would come up on with the value-added reconciliation services, or giving the multiple payment options against the reconciliation which have been done. The integration of neo banking and reconciliations, like that would definitely give you the best view of whole transactions which have been done under the businesses. So be it from the banking perspective, or be it from the invoicing platform or the accounting platform being used. Also, in the case of reconciliation service providers, there are new players which are coming in as a part of ONDC's RSP category, which would definitely give you more and more insights into the reconciliation service platforms. So automated spend management platforms is something which are going to next, what you can say, attractions for the businesses, because managing the expenses is a bit hassle for them. I mean, be it expenses done on the travel, or be it expenses done on the say employee management or employee expenses which have been done on day-to-day basis. Keeping track of that, doing the reconciliation of this, and in a larger scale, this can be transactions into the multiple currencies done across the countries, etc. So managing that all together on say offline systems, it would be a very difficult thing. So that is where these expense platforms are coming in, and this spend management platform are definitely going to transform this for the I mean say MSMEs or the small businesses which are going to adopt this in the future. How the future looks like is largely the players would tend to become towards full stack, providing financial as well as non-financial services to their customers. And here the entry of the banks as well as the fintechs would be there. So this space would be shared between the banks and fintechs, providing multiple services to the MSMEs. For the from the perspective of fintechs, they will be able to open up the new revenue streams for them, be it from the lending offering, like lending or insurance or wealth kind of services to the customers, as well as the segmentation would be done for the MSMEs, because MSME as a it's a very vast market as such. So capturing whole market would not be possible. So they are likely to have the segmentation of it, which will be targeted, because the requirement of each segment of MSME would be different from the other segment. So that is where this segmentation would be will help many players to diversify and pick up their own segment of choice. ERPs in facilitating B2B payments is something which will be helpful with the Bharat Connect, aggregators which are providing platform for the multiple ERPs to connect to each other and share the facilitate the payment and collection services for their customers. So that's it from all together. So largely we would be looking after this whole space for the longer term now, and what we believe that definitely this space is going to be the happening space for the next few, at least for next few time to come. From the perspective of our services, we do work on digital payment and business strategies perspective, which are giving opportunity for the fintechs as well as the small, what you can say, businesses to enter into the digital payments, as well as the platform benchmarking, be it market research. So basically doing the specific industry trend analysis, segmentation, what we talked about, it would be helpful from that perspective. So that is something which we have recently worked upon with one of our client. And definitely the super app is something which is likely to be the next part of it. So we are also riding that wave with one of our banking partner out there. So that's it all from my side. Thank you everyone for joining in, and we'll be get back soon. In case of any questions or something, you can reach out to us at any point of time through LinkedIn or through our website. Once again, thank you everyone. Thanks for your time.